Welcome to the Sonoma County Winegrape Commission's Winegrape Chronicles. In this monthly series, we'll follow several Sonoma County growers and winemakers through a typical winemaking season, giving you a glimpse into the process behind making some of the world's finest wines.
Hi, I'm Paul Hobbs, and I'm a winemaker. I've been working with my friend here, Ulises Valdez, for the last 6 or 7 years. Ulises is one of my star growers, top growers.
Thank you.
And here we're in one of the most beautiful vineyards in Sonoma County, West County, Sonoma, in the Russian River near Sebastopol, Forestville area. We're in the Chardonnay block here, and about the late part of April, and we have about a foot of growth that's occurred since the initial bud break, which was around March 15th. So we've had about 5, almost 6 weeks of growth in the last 5 or in that period. And what we're doing now is we're coming into the vineyard and we're beginning a process called suckering, which is the removal of shoots that we don't want. The word suckering, in fact, applies to any kind of removal of unwanted shoots, and particularly suckers, which are on apple trees and so on, are usually fruitless shoots that are like water shoots, and they just kind of grow up inside the tree. And here in the grapes, we're actually going through, and Ulises will show us how that's done, but we're going through and taking and making a selection of shoots that we want to bear the fruit this coming vintage.
The idea of suckering is I want to get more sun into these buds. That's the idea for next year, next year growth, because this is going to be the next year growth. So we want it, that's my experience. We want to have everything nice and clean, and so we can have, well, you're going to see, I'm going to do this vine, and so you can see the difference after it's, and I like to remove a couple leaves. Oh, you can see in here. Of course, I need more practice. You guys are a lot faster than me. So the idea, well, you can see the difference now. The idea is to get more sun, and that'll help you for botrytis also, because believe me or not, you can get botrytis before, like 05 with this ugly weather. This year we're lucky, we got a beautiful spring, so we're fine. But that can really help open everything. It really help for botrytis also, because you can get on these little clusters botrytis before bloom. So and when you do this, you have to look for the future, for the next year, the position. Like in here, they got those 2 vines ridge. You want to remove one, and you want to have everything nice and open so everything can grow real nice and separate. So you can see after it's suckering, like in here, I want to leave this just for future position. Like next year, we'll come here, because if you leave this one, it'll get close to this other spur. So the idea is to separate, to have everything nice and even. This year, we're not going to have fruit from this little one, but it's a future for next year, so we can keep everything nice and separate. So this is it. This is suckering.
One of the things that Ulises was commenting on was the possibility that the shoot could get attacked by a mold or fungus called Botrytis. And Botrytis is actually, Botrytis cinerea is its full scientific name, is a simple mold that can either attack the new green tissue that's growing right now and wreak havoc. So that's something we want to prevent happening. Or it can also attack a fully mature berry. And when it does that, in the good cases, when it does that, it makes the great sweet wines of the world, Sauternes and Tokais, or the great late harvest wines. And that's a beneficial aspect of the mold. On the most cases, and what we're doing here in making dry wines, like Chardonnay, for example, the mold is ignoble and not something that we want. So we're wanting to prevent the mold from either growing on the tissue and attacking these new small clusters that you see.
Yeah.
Because if it does that, it can actually destroy the stem here and the cluster will fall off. So we have to prevent the mold growth, and even in the areas where, for example, they want the mold to grow, they don't want it to grow on young tissue, they only want it to grow on the fully ripened berry. So those are the key distinctions with Botrytis. So one of the things that we're doing in the vineyard today, in fact, is we're spraying for that mold, and what we use is a compound that's primarily a naturally occurring compound. Sulfur is very effective at combating Botrytis, and it's something that like all molds, it's a little bit like athlete's foot mold. I mean, in a way, you have to put on some kind of a sulfur-based compound, if you will, to control the mold growth. So we're doing it. It's not harmless to the Botrytis, but it's a gentle spray and very essential spray in terms of controlling the growth of this mold. The harvest was some 6 or 7 or 8 months ago, and so now we are now in a phase of the winemaking process that's strictly aging in barrels. One of the most important tools for the winemaker in making wine is, in particularly in barrel fermented Chardonnay, is the barrel itself. And after the grapes, this would be the second most important tool, if you will, in making high quality wines. We go to great pains to select barrels, and one of the ways that we look is we want as tight a grain oak as possible. So here you can see there's 2 features that we're looking for. We're looking for the tightness of the growth rings, which you can see here, almost just a fraction of an inch, maybe a 32nd of an inch or a couple of millimeters of growth each year. Very, very tight rings. And this is important because it helps for a more slow extraction of the oak character and a slower aging and development of the Chardonnay inside the barrel. The other thing that makes the barrel, and oak in particular, a very suitable vessel or material for barrel is something called a ray. And these are the rays, you can see them here. They run the length of the stave, and they are what prevent the wine from seeping through the oak or through the wood and outside the barrel. So that makes this a watertight vessel. And also these rays are responsible for the ability to bend the oak and shape it into the form of a barrel. While the winery at this time of year is not particularly looking like a lot of action on the outside, inside this barrel there's a lot of activity going on, but it's microscopic and we don't really see it. And in fact, in some years we put a glass head in so you can kind of see the activity. Inside the barrel, if you were to take this head off and make it a glass head, and you were to look inside, you would see that the liquid up here, about 58 gallons of the 60 gallons that this contains, is slowly fermenting, so it's a bit hazy. Down below, there'll be a layer of about 1.5 gallons or 2 gallons of yeast and other sediments, but mostly yeast. And this yeast is extremely important. It's one of the reasons that we don't have to add any additives at all to the juice. In other words, Ulises' grapes, when they come to the winery, we don't add any component at all. They are just pressed, the juice goes into the barrel, the yeast is native, the bacteria are wild, and so what's in here is a totally native environment. Ulises and I are now standing in the barrel room.
We're here.
Yep, to a great partnership.
For the best.
This is 2006 in the future.
Yeah, and then for the best 07, I think we're gonna have another great year.
I agree.
And like I always say, it's like climbing a ladder. Every year have to be higher, which is higher in quality.
Yeah.
So on my side, I'll do the best to
You got it. Likewise.
bring you the best grapes, and then it's your turn.
Salud.
Salud. There's always a room for a good wine.
That was great.